Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and our guest today is Aubree Horspool. Aubree will be joining us a little bit later. We're going to let her save her voice for later so she can be fresh, and I am going to actually read her story. Now, Aubree suffers with a disease called SCA7 or Spinocerebellar Ataxia 7. And you may not be familiar with this disease. It's pretty rare, but what it is, it's a disease of the central nervous system. So when you have this disease, you have progressive changes in vision, loss of motor control, unclear speech, and these things come on slowly and gradually. And Aubree, when I first met her, which was about 5 years ago, she could walk unassisted. And now she's in a wheelchair. She is about 30 years old and is a young mom herself of one son named Sam, who you'll hear about. So what Aubree's done is she's written out her story, and I'm going to go ahead and read her own words. This was given to a church audience, and so you'll definitely hear a little bit about Aubree's faith, and you'll get to hear her own words and kind of what this experience has been like for her. So I'm quoting from Aubree now. This is called Perfect Love Casteth Out All Fear. I was born in Orem, Utah, to Rick and Cindy Balling, two people who have loved me perfectly my whole life. Cindy, my mom, came from a close LDS family and grew up doing all sorts of sports and activities like cheerleading, gymnastics, and swimming, and was diagnosed with SCA7 the year I was born. She was able to have 3 boys and a girl before me, but after having me and finding out my mom had SCA7, my parents decided to stop having kids. So ever since I can remember, my mom has suffered with this disease. This disease is progressive, so I always help my mom, but more and more as things got harder for her. Rick, my dad, came from a close LDS family as well. He grew up swimming and working hard at school so that he had his PhD and was working at BYU by the time I was born. My dad loves my mom so much, and he has told me many times that the more he helped and served my mom, the more he loved her. My mom was always adventurous, and my dad did so much to involve her in everything he did. One example is he got a recumbent tandem bike so they can go on bike rides together up Provo Canyon. Growing up and watching my mom struggle caused me and my 4 older siblings to have a fear that we would have her disease too. But watching the way my parents loved each other, the Lord, and us perfectly casteth out all fear. Then, when I was 13, I went to register for school and the eye chart was blurry. I was terrified to go home and tell my parents about it because I knew that bad eyesight is one of the first signs of SCA7. So instead of making an appointment with the optometrist, my parents took me up to Salt Lake to be tested by a specialist in neurology, Dr. Degree. After doing all sorts of balance and eye tests, she diagnosed me with SCA7. I was overcome with fear at hearing those words. My whole world had been flipped upside down. I always imagined that I would be on the swim team in high school, graduate college, get married, and have a bunch of kids. But now I had no idea what to expect. I thought maybe I will be able to do swim, but I probably won't be any good. I was in shock until I reached my bed, and then the tears just started flowing. I was so full of fear until I felt the loving embrace from my parents, who were crying harder than me. Then we all said a prayer together, and I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of love for my Savior. It was like He was hugging us all and crying with us. The perfect love of my Savior and parents casteth out all my fear. Then the Lord surrounded me with love in the form of family and friends. The day after my diagnosis, my parents told all my siblings about the news around the dinner table. After many more tears and hugs from my siblings, my dad said, "We have to just take life one day at a time." I always try to remember that when I have fear for the future. I started to recognize how lucky I was to do the things I could still do. I joined the swim team that year with a friend, and I enjoyed every year that I got to swim on the swim team because I never knew when I wouldn't be able to. And to my pleasant surprise, I did pretty well. My coach and my teammates all showed me so much love that I hardly ever felt fear about my future with this disease. I also had the best group of friends outside of swim. They were all such good examples to me. We did so much good, fun stuff, like going on tons of group dates that were always filled with fun. Then I graduated high school and my eyesight was bad enough that I stopped driving, but I was still healthy enough to go to college. I went to BYU, of course, since my dad worked there, and I moved into an apartment with my cousin Callie. She had the same disease as me, but she was diagnosed when she was 8, so she was a lot farther progressed than me. I feel so blessed to have been able to help and serve her for the couple of years that we lived together. I walked to her classes on campus holding her arm. I helped her get around at all the many social events, and I took classes with her so I could read the text aloud to her. I grew to love her so much during that time, and she radiated love to everyone around her. She never showed fear of this disease. I visited with her a few months before she died, and she never complained about being uncomfortable or frustrated. She would smile and laugh while talking about our college experiences. She has been, and always will be, my greatest example. During college, I dated boys, but I never thought I would be able to marry. And then I met Taylor. When things started getting serious between us, I tried to break it off to avoid the inevitable heartbreak that would come when I told him all about the disease I had and how hard it would make his future with me. He persisted and told me he loved me, and then I told him everything. My fear of heartbreak was cast out when he told me he was there to help me, and I didn't have to struggle alone. Of course, I fell in love with him and we decided to get married. On February 9th, we went to the temple and were surrounded by family who all radiated love towards us. Then, as I looked into Taylor's eyes over the altar to be sealed to him, I basked in the perfect love from him, our families, and the Lord. You could even say it casteth out all fear. Now that we were married, we wanted babies, but with my declining health and the 50% chance of any baby I had having SCA7, our only option was to follow my sister's example and do in vitro and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. We had to hurry because we didn't know how long I would be healthy enough to care for a child. So we got right to work meeting with doctors in California to do the in vitro, and also talking with the doctor in Michigan who would do the PGD. Then we moved to California to live with the Horspools and got started. With all the shots of hormones and doctor visits, I was an emotional wreck, but thanks to my loving husband, savior, mother-in-law, and ice cream, I got through those months. Then they implanted 2 eggs, and after bed rest and more shots, we found out it didn't work. Oh, that was hard, but the perfect love of those around me casteth out my fear of it never working and that I would never have a child. So we found another doctor and did the whole thing again, and it worked. I was pregnant with twins. Every time we went to the doctor, we were so scared that I had miscarried, and one day it happened. I started bleeding badly, and when I called my doctor, he said everything was probably fine. We were so scared when we went to the doctor to do the ultrasound. I just remember feeling such joy at hearing the doctor say how good baby A looked. Then he saw that baby B had stopped growing. He told us it was probably better for my body to only have one, and he kept saying how healthy and strong baby A was. Well, we continued to have fear that something would happen to baby A, and when the delivery date drew near, we started to fear that we would not be able to be good parents. I also feared that my abilities were already bad enough that I couldn't physically care for my child. Then the big day came 3 weeks early, which took us by surprise, and he came so fast we didn't even have our camera. When the doctors were cleaning him off, Taylor whispered to me, "That's our baby crying." Then they put that baby in my arms, and I felt such a tidal wave of love flow through me that all my fear was cast out. I couldn't even stand up by myself because I was so sore, but as long as I had that baby in my arms, nothing else mattered. I think I forgot that I even had the disease for the first week. I feel so blessed to be able to raise such a sweet boy, and he reminds me of how blessed I am every day. My mom passed away last year after things got really bad with the disease. She was finally relieved from her afflicted body. Even though it instilled so much fear in me for my future to watch her suffer and die. The Lord blesses me with His perfect love if I just ask for it, and all that fear is cast out. That brings me to the present day. I feel like this is the hardest time of my life because my disease is the worst it has ever been, and I know it is just going to get worse. Sometimes it is so hard, and I get so frustrated with the things I can't do. Every day is a struggle. But it is not a trial if it's not hard, right? I still have a lot of my abilities, and I try to focus on the things I can do instead of the things I can't. Whenever I see something that makes me look back, I am so grateful that I still have my eyesight. I also know that the Lord has placed people around me that help me by loving me and serving me. So even though I don't want this disease, I will struggle through it because I know it is the only way I can have joy and return to live with God. Hi, Aubree. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi.
So we are so happy to have Aubree Horspool with us on the show, and we've just heard her story. And now I wanted to talk to her and get some updates. So that was written a couple of years ago. And Aubree, can you kind of fill us in on any updates or anything that's changed since you wrote your story?
Well, since then, me and my sister have gone to the NIH, the National Institute of Health in DC, and have done that's doctors out there researching the disease and doing studies and trying to develop treatments. They haven't found anything that's for sure yet, but they're definitely making progress. And there's also doctors around the world, like in University of San Diego, that are working on research, and so we're coming along slowly but surely.
That's good. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, about going out there and doing all that testing? What was that like?
Yeah, they tested. We met with a lot of doctors, and they tested a lot of our, like, the cell development, like, saw, like, what damage had been done to our cells and our cell structures in the eyes, and it was interesting to see the damage it does and how it affects our abilities. Like, we could see the damage in our eye, how it affects your eyesight, and the damage in the colors. So I can't see the colors well because of certain cells that are affected. And
Okay, that's so interesting. So you were able to actually learn more about the disease. So I wanted to share your story with people just because I think you are such an inspiration, really your attitude. And I know it's not easy, and I know every day you don't have a perfectly happy attitude, but overall that is something that you really work hard on, and that you try hard to do, and it comes across like you have a good attitude toward life, and I appreciate that so much. But what do you want people to know about your disease, or about helping people in need, or other things? Like, what do you wish you could tell people?
Well, if you want to offer and help, you may. It's hard to accept help from people all the time. So if you're trying to help and people act a little offended by it, don't be offended. Just do all you can to help. It's just hard to. I don't know. I've learned a lot of patience and humility from learning that you can't do everything that I've been able to do before. So I just need to accept the help, and I don't know. I'd encourage people to become more educated about diseases people that are around you have. I don't know, or if you want to help, you can always donate money to research, or I don't know.
Okay, no, that's great. So, when people offer you help, like what have you found the most helpful, or what things do people do? I remember, okay, let me just share an example. So I remember when you first moved here, and you said these are the things I can do, and these are the things that I need help with. And that was so great to have us, for me personally, like, okay, awesome. Now I know what she needs help with, because I think a lot of times people want to help. Like they see someone in need and they want to help, but they're not sure how to go about it. And, they don't want to be offensive in offering help. Yeah. And
Yeah, because sometimes people say things like, yeah, I know, like, sometimes I can see it and sometimes I can't. Like, I don't know, sometimes it just simply ask, do you need help with that? Or if they do, then they'll probably be like, yeah, thanks.
right.
But because there's some moments that I've been struggling and people have come up and just said, do you need help? And it's been like a lifesaver. Just, I didn't think I needed help, but then they were there to help, and it helps.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's a great takeaway for everyone, to just ask. Just don't be afraid to say,
Yeah.
can I help you with that? I like that. Okay, so tell us what you've learned as your disease has progressed. I mean, obviously this is the learning experience of your life. I mean, this is huge, but what are some things as the disease has progressed? What have you taken away? What have you continued to learn?
Probably, like I was saying earlier, the patience and humility.
So talk to us a little more about the patience. So why has this disease taught you patience?
Because at first I could just get up and walk and run and get things, but now it's like I have to be patient and wait until somebody's ready to help me, or like, yeah, like if I like, I don't know, an example, like I want a certain thing, but it's too high up to reach. So I have to wait for my husband to go from work to reach it. I can't just get it right away.
Wow.
So it makes you like realize that most things that you usually just get right away, you don't matter as much. And so you learn to be patient and just,
Yeah, no, that's huge. And that's something that so many of us, I do for sure, we take for granted. Like, oh, that's no big deal. I need that thing. I'll get it and move on. We don't have to wait. And so, yeah, that's definitely a huge learning experience. And then I think you were going to say, were you going to talk more about humility? Was that the other one?
Yeah, but that's definitely like, because I've always been, it's hard for me because I've always been, growing up, I was always coordinated and very good at sports and pretty good at most things I did. And I always try to look cool, but like when you have a handicap and a disease and you're in a wheelchair, you're not gonna look cool,
I think you look cool. You're cool.
When you go into a restaurant, everyone's gonna be wondering what's wrong with her, and
right.
I don't know, you just go from being like smooth and cool to you have to humble yourself and be happy and looking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's another great takeaway. And I'm sure that part of what goes along with that is learning to not worry as much about what people think, because you have to, I mean, that's one of the lessons, I guess, is that you have to let that go. And that is humbling because to a certain extent, we all care what other people think. Well, I so appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing a little bit of what you've learned and what your experience has been. Anything else that you want to add to people listening?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and close. Thank you so much for being here, Aubree. And thank you all for listening to Moms Who Know. Subscribe to Moms Who Know so you never miss an episode, and join the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/Moms Who Know podcast.